everybody wants to sit down, please. Or at least stop talking. Well done. Thanks, Jen. All right, guys, if we're ready to get going, let's... Tim, you good? Okay. All right, well, thank you for coming tonight. In Mayor Candidate Forum. My name's Landon Clark with the Sugar House Community Council. I would really like to thank Fisher Brewery for having us tonight. This has only been open for 2 days, so pretty awesome. I would also like to thank Tina and George. They're going to keep our time over here. She's from the League of Women Voters. The Salt Lake recognized community organizations and local city, county, and state governments. We have 26 community councils in Salt Lake City, and it's pretty cool that we're all here tonight, so thank you. I am going to turn the time over to Robert Gerke from the Salt Lake Tribune, and Colby Frazier. The head brewer here, and formerly of City Weekly. Take it away, guys.
Hey, good evening. It's good to see a full house here. I'm excited to do this. And thanks again to Fisher for hosting this debate. And a round of applause for Colby, my co-moderator, who brewed all the beer that we're drinking tonight. So thank you. So just quickly to go over the ground rules. We're going to Mayor Mendenhall, Michael Valentine, move down the line. We'll rotate questions, 2-minute responses. We're not going to allow rebuttal time unless in Colby and our judgment that there's an attack that needs to be responded to directly. And so we can cover as much ground as we possibly can. So we'll also, 2 minutes. Colby has a whistle and a stopwatch. He will blow the whistle if we go over 2 minutes. He will blow the whistle if there are outbursts from the audience or if there's applause, so please hold your applause until the end. Otherwise, you get the whistle. So we're going to start with Mayor Anderson. You can give your opening statement, please.
Thank you, and thanks to all of you, the community council, all of you in community councils, Fisher Brewery, all the organizers. There's a lot of work that goes into these kinds of functions, but this is the best of grassroots democracy. And we are all in this together, and if we want to see me, that's what I represent. If we want to see a continuation of the dismal status quo, then you can vote for more of that. But I will say that residents, as I've been going door to door for over 7 months, I hear it from just about everybody. Residents, businesses, and members of the homeless community have been betrayed, and they feel betrayed by years of indifference, by years of lack of effective action, and by many of the excuses that we're hearing from the current administration about why things aren't being done differently. Today, there are no beds in the shelters. So when we talk about unsheltered people, realize that. You go online to the city's dashboard, there are no beds, like last winter. And last winter, the city administration, and they are responsible for what goes on in our city, they turn their backs on hundreds of people, many of whom died from exposure, even more who had amputations of toes, lower limbs, fingers, many of whom I've gotten to know. It is heartbreaking. And when you have to rely on a church like the Methodist Church to open their doors once in a while on the coldest nights to let people who are absolutely freezing in with no action taken by the city, things need to change. And they need to change for businesses and residents who are seeing so many homeless encampments in their neighborhoods and our parks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Mendenhall, your opening statement.
Hi there. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for showing up to your community council meetings, most of all. I'm Erin Mendenhall. I know you. I'm a mom, I'm an air quality advocate, and I'm the mayor of Salt Lake City. And I want to thank SLCN for bringing us out tonight. Thank you to our hosts, and thanks to you for providing the questions we're going to debate tonight. There are a lot of matters that affect the city as a whole. We talk about those matters a lot. We'll talk about them tonight too. But sometimes those big issues eclipse the really unique, high priorities of specific neighborhoods, and I'm hoping that we can have a broad discussion tonight of what matters to you in the neighborhoods and communities you represent. In the last 4 years, I have worked hard as your mayor to be a mayor for the whole city, to bring progress to every neighborhood. And that's why, uniquely, I've earned the endorsement of all 7 city council members, the personal endorsement of 12 community council chairs. And this work that we're doing together is real. I've met with every one of your community councils at least twice. I meet every quarter with the leadership of every community council. My staff is at every single community council meeting. They hold community office hours in every city council district every single month because we want to make it easier for the community to connect with us. We love working with you. The city is not perfect. You and I know that because we meet all the time. But it is pretty great. And we've been through a lot. And we've made huge steps going forward. And I'm not going to let anybody take us backwards. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hi everyone, great to be here. I'm Michael Valentine. I got to give a quick apology to Landon and the organizers of this event for just the miscommunication about our campaign being here tonight. We haven't been invited to all of the campaigns, so sometimes it's tricky to figure out which debate we're supposed to be at. So appreciate you guys putting this on. I have a really warm spot in my heart for Fisher. I'm actually in the industry. I'm the owner of a Six Sailor Cider, one of the older cider companies around. We've been making cider for a long, long time, so love that. I've been very excited about it. And then I also love Fisher too for the historic preservation. They're the oldest brewery in Utah, and I'm a huge fan of the Fisher Mansion, and I'm very excited to see that restored. Exactly. So I missed the event a couple of weeks ago, but so I'm a very different candidate up here. Obviously, I'm the only candidate that hasn't been the mayor before, so kind of a underdog candidate. I got long hair and just kind of a unique person, but I kind of have my foot in a lot of different parts of the city. I've been homeless, but I'm also a business owner. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I'm a community activist and an organizer. And I'm also like the most prepared one up here. I've released a whole housing and homeless plan in February of this year, very similar to the one the mayor of Denver is just implementing, declaring a state of emergency for homelessness, vowing to house 1,000 people by the end of the year. And I represent a very different course for the city. I'm the most progressive candidate up here. I've released a whole platform that's one of the most progressive platforms in the country, really, running on eradicating homelessness, using a UBI, universal basic income, to be a cure for poverty, and looking at these issues from a systemic level where we're not just putting Band-Aids on solutions, but we're actually looking at them at a core level and solving them for real. Homelessness is something we can end, and I plan to do that. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Michael. So first question will go to Mayor Mendenhall. It's probably not a coincidence that you talked about homelessness before. It's the topic that everybody's talking about. But since 2019, homelessness in Salt Lake County has increased by about 30%. About 1,000 more, according to the last point in time count, are in Salt Lake County are unsheltered now compared to where they were in 2019. So the work that's been done doesn't seem to be effective. What would you do differently? What's your plan for dealing with homelessness in your second term?
Yeah, thanks. Everybody deserves a safe and a warm place to sleep, and there has not been enough of that. Utah, like states across the nation, has seen a spike in homelessness in the last several years. And for Utah, that's been mostly concentrated here in Salt Lake City. Homelessness is as complex as each individual who experiences it, and that's why our city's strategy to address homelessness is also complex. First, it starts with more housing of every type. Second, we're talking about bringing services to people on the streets, and we've been doing that since 2020 instead of asking them to come in. Third, we're compelling the state, the county, and other cities to do their fair share. This is not a place where the entire state's experience of homelessness should be concentrated, and the resources should only come from here. Fourth, we're supporting neighbors and businesses who are housed, who are impacted by homelessness. And fifth, we're reforming the way that we deal with the criminal element among the homeless population. We've created 434 permanent supportive housing units. There's more than 300 more in the pipeline right now. We've had 413% increase in our affordable housing investment in the city. It's resulted in 4,000 created. We've got 600 winter shelter beds. West Valley City's hosting for the first time ever. And we have spread the footprint of responsibility. The state of Utah is now funding winter services and we had that plan submitted in August this year, earlier than ever before. What's the point here? We're not alone anymore. We're not alone in funding, we're not alone in planning, and we're not alone in serving. We're still bringing more than ever, more than every mayor combined. This administration has invested more. And we're going to keep it going. That's who we are as Salt Lakers. We're creative, we're tenacious, and we're not going to give up because it's spiked and it's growing. So are our services.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
Yeah, so, you know, the mayor just spoke about a lot of things, but what she didn't say is anything about homeless abatements. If anyone's seen a homeless abatement, it's a very horrendous thing. I think they're crimes against humanity. Basically, the city right now is paying police to go out in overtime and with the county and the health department to basically attack the homeless, throw their belongings away, clean up the city, and just, you know, chase them around the city right now. Since the mayor has announced her tiny, you know, sanctioned camping plan, right by the gateway, right by my store at the downtown, there's a place called the Island where a lot of the homeless folks hang out. And they fenced that off because apparently it's very important that we take care of the grass right now. I don't know why the grass is more important than homeless people's lives. So I would, you know, request the ban abatements. I've done a change.org petition that's almost about 500 signatures. We need to ban abatements right now. Like, sanctioned camping is important because we ban abatements and stop attacking the homeless people. I think the biggest difference between us up here is I have personally been homeless. I know what it feels like at a nonverbal level. I remember driving around trying to find a place to sleep and trying to find a place to shower, you know. So when I look at the unsheltered community around the city, I see myself there, you know. It's a very personal issue for me. So what do we need to do different is the question. So I mentioned I released a homeless plan in February of this year. I would declare a state of emergency on homelessness. I'd set up sanctioned camping for everybody, not 50 people. You know, the situation right now with the sanctioned camping area, it's about $500,000 from the city, $1 million from the state, $1.5 million. For 50 people for 6 months. That's about $30,000 per person. We'd be better off just putting these people into apartments, and the average apartment rate is about $1,600 a month, so that's about 18 months of apartments versus 6 months of a pod village, you know, out in the middle of nowhere. So we need to look at this and really end homelessness and eradicate it, and we can do that.
Thank you. Mayor Anderson.
Thank you.
I want to drill down a little bit on how that would actually, what that would actually look like. Are we talking about, are we allowing drug use, alcohol use? Are we having pets in there? What if people refuse to go to there? What is the alternative at that point? We'll start with Michael.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think all of our sanctioned camping approaches are very, very different. When I talk about sanctioned camping, I've mentioned this in every debate. I hate the term camping. These people aren't camping, they're surviving. Camping is a recreational activity. It's not, you know, what they're doing. And then when you say sanctioned camping, a lot of people think outside, you know, with these pods and different things. My approach is very different. You know, the city has a department called the Redevelopment Agency that the mayor is the executive director of. There's a lot of RDA land all across the city. There's a lot of buildings that are vacant. So when I talk about sanctioned camping, I talk more about finding these buildings and redeveloping them really quickly to house people inside. And the point of sanctioned camping too is it bans abatements immediately, which, you know, again are very, you know, grave situations of injustice. But the point of sanctioned camping too is to unite all the resources, all the community groups, Nomad Alliance, and Coconut Hut, and all these other places that are donating tons and tons of stuff to help people. But then we intake people, find out what individualized support they need, where they need to go, and move them into long-term housing. Earlier this week, an amazing thing happened in Denver that was very exciting, and we're in talks with Mayor Mike Johnson out there. Maybe it's a thing with Mike and Michael, the two mayors. But they had a move-in day where they closed an encampment for the first time by moving people directly into housing. And I've done a lot of research across the world of looking into what's successful, what's not working. Houston was able to house 25,000 people in the last 10 years directly into housing with an 85% success rate. Finland is on the verge of curing homelessness. So we really got to ask ourselves, what's the compassionate approach? A lot of studies have shown it's actually cheaper to put people directly into housing. And then do we want Salt Lake to be one of the first major cities in America to cure homelessness so it just doesn't exist here anymore? That's a possibility in our lifetime. That's something we could do right now, and I just don't take it as a reality that that's impossible.
Thank you, Michael. Rocky, you're next.
Yes, they're calling what they're exploring now, they call it a pilot project, a sanction camp. Well, the city council, I'm sure, did not have 30 pods or 50 pods in mind. To take only 30 or 50 people and put them in these expensive pods, you're putting $1.5 million toward 50 people for what, 5 months, 6 months maybe? You could buy hotel vouchers for every one of them for less than what they'll be spending on this. And worse than that, it's an absolute admission that if you're only putting 50 people in this place and providing for them, you're not showing us a plan for eliminating the encampments throughout the rest of the city. You've basically conceded that they will continue, and that's a bad deal. We talk about compassion. We got to have compassion for the homeless community, but we also have to have compassion for our residents and our businesses that have suffered so dramatically because of the ineffective planning and approach by this administration. It is absolutely foolhardy to say you're only going to do this for 50 people. And by the way, the plan that our current mayor has signed off on, along with others, it called, you know what their goal is? A 2-year goal for eliminating people in our unsheltered community. And by unsheltered, we're talking about people in tents, in cars.
Then you decline in the services acceptance, not an investment that happens for
as a necessary provide the housing and take it out of the market, so you take the profit without being insecure about how much their rent is going to increase. They do in Singapore. 80% of the people in Singapore own their homes. In Vienna live in social housing, and it is gorgeous. What we've been building these last
Downtown by the Gateway in an RDA property that just opened earlier this summer. The mayor and the city council was outside my front door talking about how it is a 2-bedroom. It's $2,000 a month. I don't think that's a good use of public money. Real quick about they've been reporting false vacancy numbers for years now. They've been reporting numbers about 2%. The actual numbers are about 4%, and that's based.
kids. And I love dogs, and I have a dog, but we need families in this city too. It's part of our longevity plan. It's part of creating a vital and amazing city. And housing costs are one of the biggest factors. And so we've already talked a little bit about the 413% increase in affordable housing investment. And I'll just mention to you, politicians don't decide what affordable is. HUD does, the federal government, who takes all of our tax information and all of our homeless count information, and then they tell you, and it's a good thing your politicians aren't deciding exactly what affordability is.
Pantages still, that's $20 million of public property that was given away for basically exchange for 40 apartments. What are those apartments? They're studio apartments, most of them. So that's not for a family. Families aren't living in a studio apartment. That's a luxury apartment. So again, we got to look at a completely opposite approach of 30% AMI, what's truly affordable, and build 2- and 3-bedroom apartments for families. We talk about homelessness is very important. Focusing on the most vulnerable people. For affordable housing go way beyond this. I'm a millennial. If elected, I'd be the 3rd youngest mayor in city history at 35 years old. Millennials are the first generation in America to.
Beyond taking those stands, we need to be a family scam on us that are
Be demanding in exchange for these concessions. We'll start with you, Mayor Mendenhall.
You are the bread and butter of changes to zoning. You know, the city has pretty strict zoning. We're using new forms like form-based code and listening to the community. So ballparks are the ballpark station area plan, where there was a proposal through the station area plan, which is for transit service area zoning, TSA. And
Thank you. Mr. Valentine.
Yeah, I wish they had that community approach in the city 2 years ago when I tried to save the Pantages for the whole state of Utah. Right now, the city is basically ran by developers. It's like the Wild West. Same on the legislature. So many people have ties to developers. You know, Kirk Colmore, who's responsible for like 50% of all evictions in Utah, which is insane. He's up there writing laws. So I'm running to rein developers in. You know, I $0 deal. It's very concerning to me. Where what we need to do is we need to rein the RDA in. We need to have it work.
And they're doing every favor they can for Ivory Development, for them to shun narrow homes, using up all of that. And now Ivory's gone down to Liberty Wells and that beautiful 2-acre open space to the south of the
Great question. I am the only small business owner up here. I've owned a small business for several years. My cider company, I've been selling cider for over 7 years at the farmers markets. We're again, one of the older cideries around. We're in the process of building a restaurant.
He's just said here about
no, I heard about this though this week. I think it's Dee Dee's ghost is what you're talking about, and it's not. I have nothing to do with it. My campaign has nothing to do with it, and the reality is, you can search him. Go to Deseret News. Go to Tribune. You know that there's nothing that this is the first time it's come up in this campaign. But I have an amazing staff, 72% of whom happen to be women. Nobody's ever accused me of a toxic work environment or gender discrimination lawsuit threats or testified at the state legislature in 2017 against my toxic behavior in the workplace. This is all just in the papers, and it's been interesting to see how the existence